Before we begin this creation of a project in Scratch, it's important to always understand why might this project be useful to us. So in this case, we've seen many problems that look like this following problem. So given the side lengths 2, 3, and 4 of a triangle, determine if these side lengths will create a right triangle. So in this case for our program, we could take three numbers and we could plug them into our program, whatever they are, and without doing all the tedious calculations, our program will figure this out for us and tell us, yes, this is a right triangle, or no, this is not. So just a bit of preview before we start. We know with a right triangle, our hypotenuse is always the side across from our right angle. Now, usually when we label this, we will call our hypotenuse side C. I'm going to stick with this in this project as well. Our other two sides, our legs, are called either A or B. Now, A or B do not matter where they go as long as they are on the legs. So our next step, now that we've kind of identified our triangle and our hypotenuse is the largest side here, we have written our formula over here. So we have A squared plus B squared has to be equal to C squared in order for us to have a right triangle. So 4 is important that 4 goes in for C because we know hypotenuse is our largest side. However, 2 and 3 can be flopped around here for A and B. So I put in my 2 for my A, my 3 for my B, and my 4 for the C. Now, with order of operations, we have no parentheses. However, we do have exponents. So we're going to start with 2 squared, then we have 3 squared, and we have 4 squared, which will bring us down to 4 plus 9 is equal to 16, which with further simplification we find 13 is equal to 16, which we know this is absolutely not true. So in this case, we end up getting an answer that does not make sense. 16. Our final answer for this problem would be, no, these side lengths do not create a right triangle. Now, we walked through this problem to kind of put in our heads why might this program that we're about to create be helpful. Now, as we walk back through this problem and identify what we did, I want to label our steps and our thinking processes to be a little bit more general as we transfer this kind of problem to our Scratch program. So this number one, our first step was we took in input from our user. So we said here, our first step was we needed to identify that our side lengths were 2, 3, and 4. So we took input from our users. Then we used our user's input, our second step. We took our user's input and we assigned our input to these variables. This allowed us to take whatever our users typed in and assign to certain variables. So our second step, we assigned numbers to variables. The third step we did was our actual math, solving to see if these two numbers would be equal to each other or not. So our third step is our calculation. And our final step, our fourth step, was we formulated an answer and we answered with no, these side lengths do not create a right triangle. So these are the 4 steps that I would say could really help you walk through your Scratch program. Your first step should be you need to receive input from your users who are going to play your game. You need to know what are the side lengths they want to use. Our second step is to actually assign variables to these numbers so that they can change. Our third step will be our actual calculations in our program, and our fourth step will be our answer message. Yes, this does create a right triangle, or no, this does not. So now it's time to take our project from paper onto an actual program. So always in Scratch, we start with this main screen. Take a moment to change your sprite if you would like to see something different, and choose a new backdrop if you would like. I am, due to the extension in this project, going to just pick an XY grid because later I may want to actually add some drawing of my triangles in here. Now click back to your sprite that you've chosen and we'll go to scripts. So to start here in our project, we always want to start with something in our events here so that we know our project will start. So I'm going to hit our one green flag is clicked. Now, we said our first step as we were walking through our previous problem with side lengths of 2, 3, and 4 was we needed to draw input from users. So in Scratch, when we want input from somebody playing our game, we're always going to look at sensing. So I'm going to put in this ask block here. And what do I want to ask here? Well, I want to know, what is your side A going to equal? Now I've got my input on this side A from my user, and it's going to be stored in this answer block, whatever they type in. So our second step from this previous problem we did, we said we needed to assign some variables. So in this case, since our formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we need a variable of a, we need a variable of b, and we need a variable of c. Now since we're assigning variables, this means that whatever our users type in can change. If we used just a number like 2, 3, and 4 in our program, these would be the same all the time. The joy of using these variables are we can change these things. So since we want to assign variables to whatever they type in, we are going to pull out this set block, and I'm going to set my side A, my variable A, to the answer that they type in. So now we've got a great start to getting some input from users, as well as assigning variables in our program. Our third step was actually our calculations piece. So if we come to operators, that's where we are going to find most of our mathy blocks. So we know the Pythagorean theorem has squares, it has an equal sign, it has an addition sign. But I'm going to start by pulling out the addition and equals block. And now as I scroll down and I'm looking for my squared block, I notice there's not a squared block. There's a square root, but no squared block in Scratch. So if I pull out a multiplication block and I wanted, we'll say 4 squared, that's also, if we were to write that out, would be 4 times 4. So in our operators block, you are going to want to make use of some of these blocks here. And then our final step, after we have done some operations using the Pythagorean theorem, is we actually want an answer message to come back. So if this Pythagorean theorem with the 3 sides they type in are equal, this equation makes sense, then we want our answer to say, yes, this is a right triangle. However, if that formula doesn't make sense in our program, then we want to say, no, I'm sorry, you do not have a right triangle. So I've kind of used this language as I was talking, but we want, if this formula works, we will respond with a message saying, yes, you have a right triangle. If our formula doesn't work, anything else will go down to this else block. And then down in here we want to say, nope, I'm sorry, your formula is not going to work. This is not a right triangle. Now again, this isn't a program or a video to teach you exactly how to create this program. This is just a video to get you started. So I hope by following our steps, taking input from your users, assigning your variables some value, doing some calculations, and then responding with an answer message will get you started with your project. Good luck!